letting the ball go. Okay, now we'll work on our shooting and dodging from behind. Our attackmen and midfielders will dodge from behind the cage. As mentioned in previous episodes of Cannon's Full Contact, split dodge, face dodge, and roll dodge. Our players will exhibit those dodges as well as finishing in tight shots. Notice the players are getting high and away from the crease and finishing in tight. Again, foot movement, change of direction, and finishing is critical in shooting in tight. Players at all levels can work on shooting, whether it be short sticks or long poles, going to the cage, getting the arms up and away from the body. If we're in tight and a defender on us, we're finishing in tight with a tight shot.
This trophy is not given, it must be earned. The NCAA Men's Lacrosse Championships. May 25th through 27th at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia.
In the stick, boom, on the money, cradle and a pass. With the first championship!
Visit ncaa.com/lacrosse to get your tickets today.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. Scott Sudikoff, Tom Eschen here, and do we have a show for you? There's so many things, I can't even count what we have. We've got Taylor Cummings on the show, Penn coach Mike Murphy. We've got MLL redraft, relocation, whatever you want to call it, PLL draft last night, PLL championship venue, and
the ACC women's tournament
That's
started
exactly what I was
today.
I think I got it all. So
there's a lot going on. So let's go to the ACC women's tournament first. In the first game of the day, no surprise in Chestnut Hill. The #1 Eagles rolling past Louisville 15-4. Kenzie Kent didn't even play in this game for BC. We were told, though, no injury concern for her, just a day off.
Yeah, that's nice this time of year to get a day off.
Quite the luxury if you're Boston College. Now, Eagles led 8-0 at halftime in this game. They won 14-20 draw controls. Sheila Riatano, 2 goals, 2 assists. Sam Apuzzo, 110 draws, only had a goal and an assist, no big deal. Kara Urbank, Jordan Lappin, each had 3 goals for BC. And for Louisville, Allie Hall led the way with a couple of goals. So BC coasts on into the quarterfinal round, or the semifinal round.
That's right, taking on Virginia or Syracuse here. Let's get to the highlights, shall we? This was an interesting one, 5-4 game. You never really know what's going to happen in that one. All these games played at BC in the big stadium out there. 1-0 Syracuse here. A lot of nice passing. Lily Cloak rips a shot to score. 1-1, Virginia ties it up. We go later in the first half. Syracuse up 2-1, and we're running in transition. We go. That's Emily Harishuk to a wide open. Look at that right in front. Sierra Cockerill, who tosses one high. Syracuse takes a 2-goal lead. That lead grows. It's 4-1 with 13 minutes to go in the first. Mary Rahal, watch her with the ball here to make some fakes and scores. 5-1. And Syracuse keeps on rolling in this first half. It's 7-1. Emily Harishuk, the spin, the finish, punishes the goalie. Syracuse goes up 8-1. Virginia makes it interesting in the second half. That's